Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuhu. A pleasant day to each and everyone. So today we will discuss the last part of our exam, no? Para sa ating prelim exam. So this will be the part na kung saan i-discuss ko yung ABG analysis. But before that, I will have to include some points, okay, or review na din with the topics that we have discussed. So, we have already discussed the different fluid imbalances, such as your hypovolemia and hypervolemia. But to remind you, fluid is the one that helps maintain the body temperature and self shape and helps transports nutrients, gases, and waste products sa ating katawan. So we have here the total body water as percentage of body weight in relation to the age and sex. So this is a table in which it represents kung ano daw po yung total body water or percentage ng tubig natin sa katawan in relation sa age to sex. So as you can see, pag early or younger age, malaki pa yung percentage ng tubig na meron tayo sa katawan. But as we grow older, okay, umabot tayo na over 60, bumababa yung ating capacity to have or to absorb water. Okay? So, we have here under 18, pag sa mga lalaki, 65% and sa female 55%. Now, what is the reason why bakit malaki ang sa lalaki compare sa babae? It's because of the body structure, okay? So magkaiba po talaga ang ating body, no? In compare sa babae at lalaki. So makikita naman natin na mas malaki ang lalaki. That's why they need more vitamins, minerals, and more water compared to women. Tayo naman mga babae, nadodoble yung mga needs natin ng mga specific vitamins, minerals, nutrients, water if we are having or ano to? We are having baby or pregnant tayo or pag magde-deliver tayo ng baby. Tsaka, nadodoble yung need natin sa mga necessary na nutrients sa ating katawan. So, we have here also 18 to 40, 60 para sa mga lalaki and 50% para sa mga female. For 40 to 60, we have 50 to 60% for male and 40 to 50% for female. And for over 60 years old, nasa 50% para sa mga lalaki and 40% daw po ng total body weight nila is water, which is hindi na siya katulad, 'di ba? Kasi sabi natin the normal na talagang percentage ng body water in an adult is 60%. So bumababa talaga siya as we grow older. So, ayan po. Pag fetus, 100%, 'di ba? Kasi nga, napansin nyo, yung bata is protected by amniotic fluid and that is also water. Okay? So, baby at birth, bumababa by 65 and then pag dumating na sila as a normal adult, bumababa sa 60% and then 50% for elderly person. Okay? So, here are the body fluid distribution. Example lang, if ang weight niya is 70 kilograms, so ang body water is nasa 42 liters or 60%. Okay. So, which is divided, di ba? We have two major compartments, the intracellular and extracellular fluid. Okay. So, kasama sa extracellular fluid, dalawa yan siya, interstitial fluid and also your intravascular, which is your plasma volume. Okay, so a total of lahat yan siya 60% plus 40% plus 20%. Okay, 20% ng ating uh, no, sorry. 40% ng ating total body weight is intracellular, okay? And then ito siya out of this one is out of the 60% na total. So, out of this one, it is divided to 40 to 20. So, kung makikita ninyo, mas malaki po ang intracellular compare sa ating extracellular. Okay? So, yan po. We have 45% solids and 60% fluid. So, makita nyo yan dyan. We have intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid, which is further divided into yung ating ECF ng interstitial fluid and the plasma or intravascular. Okay? So now let's discuss naman yung electrolytes, okay? So we will not discuss the ano to, mga certain electrolyte imbalances kasi it will be discussed through reporting, which will be your task na mga students na ire-report yung mga iba't ibang electrolyte imbalances. Okay, so ano pala yung electrolytes? 'Di ba na-discuss na natin to, but i-review lang natin. Electrolytes are charged particles or ions that are dissolved in body fluid. So we have here further divided po siya ng cations and anions. So ito po, again po, sila po ay charged particles. It's either negative or positive po ang dala-dala nila. Pag cation, they bring or they have positive na charges. Pag naman an ion, they have negative charges. So, major positive ions or major cations, we have sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. For major negative ions or anions, we have chloride, bicarbonate, and phosphorus. So, nung introduction din natin, may nasama din tayong sulfate, and para sa positive is the hydrogen ion. So, what do electrolytes do in our body? First is to promote neuromuscular irritability. Kaya nga nagkakaroon ng movement, kaya nagkakaroon ng transmission or neurotransmission, it's because of the capacity of our electrolytes in the body. Next is to maintain body fluid and osmolarity, distribute body water between fluid compartments, and regulate acid-base balance. Okay, so later on, i-discuss natin tong acid-base balance, which is yung ating ABG analysis. So, here are the normal values of our electrolytes in the body. Take note po natin, this is 135. Again, this is 135 to 145 meg per liter. That is for sodium. Potassium, 3.5 to 5 meg per liter. We have ionized calcium, okay? So, 4.5 to 5.5 milligram per deciliter. For calcium, we have 8.5 to 10.5 milligram per deciliter. Bicarbonate, 24 to 30 meg per liter. We have chloride, 95 to 105 meg per liter. Magnesium, 1.5 to 2.5 meg per liter. And for phosphate, we have 2.8 to 4.5 milligram per deciliter. So, dito po sa normal ranges na to, pag mababa po sila sa pinaka-minimum, meaning may problem. Pag naman sobrang taas din sa pinaka-maximum, may problem. So, ang ating katawan maintains homeostasis by balancing these different electrolytes in our body. Okay? So now, let's discuss naman yung ating arterial blood gas analysis. So this is very important para ma-determine natin yung oxygenation status ng ating patient and also ano yung mga pwedeng problem ng ating patient or the acid-base balance natin. Kasi may tendency na yung ating katawan is nag-undergo ng different imbalances. However, dahil normal pa yung ating katawan at wala tayong iba't ibang sakit, kaya what you call this, parang nagkakaroon pa rin ng homeostasis kasi still your body is capable of balancing this different electrolytes or materials or chemicals in our body. Okay, so ABG analysis. So it is an analysis in which, or again, it stands for arterial blood gas analysis. So it has three parameters, okay? Tatlong parameters po ang ina-assess sa ating ABG analysis. First one is the oxygenation. The second one is the acid-base status. And next or last but not the least is the degree of compensation. So later on, ito po yung isa-isahin natin. So let's start with oxygenation. So dito po sa oxygenation, we evaluate the partial pressure. Again, yung PA po stands for partial pressure. Okay. So we evaluate the partial pressure of our oxygen. Kaya nga O2 is the oxygen. Now, ang partial pressure po ng ating oxygen is less than 80 milligram per mmHg, or what we call nasa 75 to 80 milligram mercury. Millimeter mercury. So, dito sa pag-assess natin ng ating partial pressure ng oxygen, we have to consider age-related alterations. Kasi may tendency na mas maliit yung ating oxygenation sa mga bata compare sa adult patient. Kasi syempre, doon pa lang sa process ng paghinga, magkaiba na sila, no? And we need to evaluate this one kasi para ma-prevent yung ating hypoxemia, no? Para ma-prevent natin yung decreased blood O2. Again, kasi from the word hypoxemia, decreased blood O2. So ito po ay ina-assess again. We evaluate the partial pressure of oxygen in our body in order to evaluate if there's a presence of hypoxemia. Now, if naman another din is belong sa hindi lang po partial pressure, kasi ang evaluation po ng ating partial pressure ng oxygen is through pag-withdraw ng blood. Pero yung saturation po is madali na kasi through pulse oximeter. So, the normal saturation ng ating oxygen is nasa 95 to 100%. Again, correction po, that is 95 to 100% na saturation ng oxygen. Below 95 is masyado nang mababa. But we ina-accept din natin to yung 93, especially if meron conditions, problem, or bata yung ating pasyente. So pag mababa yung ating oxygen saturation, there's an inadequate amount of oxygen that is bound to hemoglobin for transport to tissue. So ang end result pag mababa yung ating sa O2 sat, ang tawag natin is hypoxia or decreased blood in the tissues. Kung kanina ang hypoxemia is sa ating blood, ang ating hypoxia is para sa decreased decreased oxygen in our tissues. Okay, so after the oxygenation, okay, na-process na natin, na-assess na natin, na-evaluate na natin yung first parameter. The second parameter will be the acid-base balance. So dito sa acid-base balance, we evaluate three: the blood pH, the PaCO2 or the partial pressure of your carbon dioxide, and the bicarbonate. So yan po yung tatlong ini-evaluate natin. Again, the blood pH, the PaCO2 or partial pressure carbon dioxide, and your bicarbonate. So the blood pH is nasa 7.35 to 7.45. So the body tolerates a narrow margin. So ito po ang range natin. This is the normal range. Again, the normal range is 7.35 to 7.45. However, ang pinaka-optimal natin na blood pH is 7.40. So yan daw po yung optimal na blood pH natin. So if I will ask you, okay, what is the optimal blood pH of your blood pH? It is 7.40. Pag naman tatanungin ko kayo, what is the normal range for the blood pH? That is 7.35 to 7.45. So, a pH, however, kahit yan po yung narrow margin natin, pag mababa po ng 7.35, that is acidosis. At pag greater than po ng 7.45, that is alkalosis. So, take note nyo po yung mga pinagsasabi ko dito because ito po yung gagamitin natin in order for us to be capable of interpreting kung ano pala yung problem ng ating patient based sa kanyang acid base balance. So if the pH daw po is within normal range, it is important to assess which side of 7.40 it falls. So example lang po, ang ating 'di ba sabi kanina is below 7.35 is acidosis. Pero, okay, sabi natin nasa 7.36. So, 'di ba, within normal siya. However, saan siya fall? Kasi hindi naman niya abot yung optimal na 7.40. So, pag sabi dito, this may indicate that the patient may be acidotic or alkalotic but compensating if database. Pag daw po 7.35 to 7.39, that is acidosis. At pag naman daw po 7.41 to 7.41, that is alkalosis. Again po, ito po siya, okay ha? So it's very important, alam ninyo. Again, kahit po nasa range pa rin siya, but still we need to look kung saan siya under acidosis or alkalosis para ma-identify natin ano ang problem ng ating patient. Okay? So, next assessment natin is sa PaCO2 or partial pressure ng ating carbon dioxide. So, the partial pressure po ng ating carbon dioxide is nasa range ng 35 to 45 millimeter mercury. Okay? So, a less than 35 daw po is indicative of respiratory alkalosis and a greater than 45 is indicative of acidosis. Bakit baliktad? In comparison sa ating blood pH. Diba? Sa blood pH, pag mataas ng 7.4, that is alkalosis. At pag mababa, okay, so yung arrow nila is magkaiba. Kasi, si carbon dioxide is acidic in nature. That's why, pag mababa siya, magiging alkalosis siya. Pag naman sobrang taas, mas magiging acidic yung ating katawan. Again po, pag less than 35, that is respiratory alkalosis. At pag greater than 45, that is indicative of respiratory acidosis. Now, for the bicarbonate, so we have the range 22 to 26 millimeter mercury or MO per liter. Okay, so yan yung kanyang unit. So, bicarbonate naman, in comparison sa ating carbon dioxide, ito po ay alkalotic or basic in nature. So, this level less than 22 is indicative of metabolic acidosis. So, pareho po sila ni pH, di ba? Sabi natin si pH, pag below 7.35, acidosis siya. So, the same lang siya ng arrow ni bicarbonate. Na pag si bicarbonate, pag mababa din siya, acidosis. At pag mataas siya, alkalosis. Kasi nga, alkalotic in nature ang ating bicarbonate. So, the arrow method of your ABG analysis. The first thing that we have to do in order to determine the type of acid-base imbalances that our patient have, it's either ma-identify natin kung respiratory ang problem or metabolic, is the arrow. So remember, Rome. Respiratory, opposite, and metabolic, equal. So ang minimin po dito is yung arrow. Di ba sabi ko kanina, pag ang respiratory mababa sa 35, that is alkalosis. Okay, alka. Pag sa which is opposite sa ating pH, kung saan magiging alkalosis lang, okay, pag mataas ang ating blood pH. So, yan ang opposite. Kaya nga opposite sila. Again, pag opposite daw po yung arrow, that is a respiratory problem. Pag naman po equal yung arrow kung saan nakatingin, that is metabolic in nature. So, example lang natin, yung ating pH is mababa. So, this is acidosis. At masyadong mababa, Okay? So, At example, no, ang blood pH natin is So, ang blood pH natin is mababa, okay? Acidosis, okay, ano? Pag ang ating bicarbonate daw po, okay, is mababa, that is acidosis. So, ang problem dito is metabolic acidosis. Again, so if arrows with pH is opposite, that is respiratory in nature, and if the same ang arrow, that is metabolic in nature. So, it's very easy. First is assess the pH, and then PaCO2, and then HCO3. If the values are elevated, place the corresponding arrow. Kung mataas siya, pataas, no? Pag mababa naman, pababa yung kanyang arrow. Now, match the M. Okay, so yung ating mga arrow. So, if the pH and PaCO2 are moving in opposite direction, this signifies a respiratory problem. So, ito po, okay, ang guideline natin. If ang pH is, yung arrow niya is opposite, that is respiratory in nature. Now, if daw po ang pH natin is mababa at mataas ang ating PaCO2, that is respiratory acidosis. At if ang pH natin is mataas at mababa ang ating PaCO2, that is respiratory alkalosis. Now, for the metabolic naman, if the pH and HCO3 arrows are moving in the same direction, this signifies a metabolic problem. So remember po, pag daw po the same, kasi 'di ba, respiratory opposite, metabolic equal. So pag magkapareho daw po yung arrow natin, that is metabolic in nature. So example lang, pag daw mababa yung ating pH at mababa pa yung ating HCO3, that is metabolic acidosis. Pag naman mataas ang pH, mataas ang HCO3, that is metabolic alkalosis. So, example, okay. Now, determine natin ha. Example lang po is 7.31. 'Di ba, within range siya kasi 7.35 to 7.45. Yes, within range. However, nasa closer siya. Okay, kasi ang optimal level natin is 7.40. Okay, below siya ng 7.35. So meaning this is acidosis. Okay. Tapos, ang PaCO2 natin is, di ba sabi is 35 to 45. So, this is within normal limits. Walang problema dyan. Now, HCO3 ninyo or your bicarbonate is 20. That is lower. Okay, so this is acidosis. So, magkaparehong mababa silang dalawa. So, meaning, ang problem ng ating pasyente is metabolic acidosis. So, yan ang problem ng ating patient. Again, kasi magkapareho yung arrow ng pH at HCO3 na mababa. Okay, another example para mas malawak, no? So, 7.49. So, ang range po natin is 7.35 to 7.45. So, 7.49, mataas. So, this is alkalosis. Okay? So, next is ang PaCO2 ninyo. Mababa. Kasi 35 to 45 yan siya. Mababa. Meaning, ito po ay alkalosis. Okay? Kasi mababa siya. Alkalosis din siya. Within normal yung ating bicarbonate kasi 23 kasi 'di ba 22 to 26. So ang problem dito is respiratory alkalosis. So ito yung sinasabi nating respiratory opposite kasi opposite yung pag yung corresponding arrows for pH and PaCO2. So yan yung ating pag organ ay pag-identify nung respiratory or metabolic in nature. Okay. So, next, let's go with the last parameter, the evaluation for compensation. So, natapos na natin yung evaluation for oxygenation, the acid-base balance. So, I hope very clear sa inyo yung respiratory. Paano ba masasabi pag respiratory ang problem? If the pH and PaCO2 is on opposite direction, that is respiratory problem. Pag naman metabolic siya, the arrows of pH and blood pH and your HCO3 or bicarbonate is on the same direction, meaning po that is metabolic in nature. So now let's go with the last parameter, evaluation for compensation. So when a patient develops an acid-base imbalance, the body will typically attempt to compensate for the abnormality. So if the buffer systems within the body are unable to maintain a normal pH, the lungs, the kidneys will attempt to compensate. So ito po yung dalawang organs na nagko-compensate, the lungs and the kidneys. So if the problem is respiratory in origin, the kidneys will work to correct it. So if may problem daw po sa respiratory, instead of the lungs ang magtatrabaho, si kidneys ang magko-correct nun. The same din, an opposite, pag metabolic daw po yung problem, si lungs ang nagko-correct doon. So, nagko-compensate each organ. So, hindi dahil problem lang ni kidneys, si kidneys lang yung nagko-correct. Tinutulungan siya ng ating lungs. So now let's go with evaluation. So we have 3 degree of compensation. It's either uncompensated, fully compensated, or partially compensated. So paano ba natin masasabi na uncompensated yung problem? So example lang natin, metabolic acidosis uncompensated. So paano daw po masasabi? Masasabi nating uncompensated if daw po ang pH is abnormal and one other is abnormal. So either of the two, it's either what do you call this? Uncompensated siya if yung isa is example, yung pH mo is abnormal and then yung HCO3 mo is abnormal pero yung PaCO2 mo is normal, so that is uncompensated. So, hindi nag-adjust bawat isa. Oh? So, yan yung isa. So, again, uncompensated siya if the pH is abnormal and isa sa PaCO2 or HCO3 is abnormal. And then, pag sabihin natin partially compensated, lahat po ng pH mo, HCO3, at saka yung PaCO2 ay lahat abnormal. At fully compensated naman po siya if the pH is normal but the others are both abnormal. So, masasabi lang natin na nagko-compensate ang ating katawan if the blood pH is normal ay kahit yung dalawa is abnormal. Okay? So, pwede din na instances na yung ating pH is normal and then either of the two is normal, okay? So, nagko-compensate pa rin siya. So, that is fully compensated. Kasi, nag-compensate yung ating pH. So, when compensatory mechanism fail, okay, the following physiologic consequences occur. So, ito po yung problem pag nagkaroon ng failure na magkaroon ng compensation. First is nagkakaroon ng altered cell function, especially in the brain when carbon dioxide crosses the blood-brain barrier. The change in intracellular enzyme activity resulting in cell dysfunction. Nagkakaroon ng acidosis, which ang isa sa mga signs and symptoms pag acidotic ang ating patient is decreased level of consciousness. And for alkalosis, decrease the level of consciousness and has other neurologic manifestation, and this may cause dysrhythmias, okay? Problem sa heart, okay? So, ito po, again, uncompensated. pH is abnormal and either the PaCO2 or HCO3 is also abnormal. So there is no indication that the opposite side has tried to correct for the others. That's why sinasabi nating uncompensated kasi wala sa PaCO2 or sa lungs and kidneys ang nag-compensate kasi lahat sila abnormal. Walang nag-compensate, okay? So next is partially compensated. If the pH is abnormal, ang pH daw po niya is abnormal and both the PaCO2 is lahat abnormal. So sa silang tatlo lahat abnormal, this indicates that one system has attempted to correct for the other but has not been successfully completely successful. So meron pa ring compensation, however, hindi na-reach na ma-achieve na maging normal yung ating pH. And pag fully compensated, the pH is normal and both the PaCO2 and HCO3 are abnormal. So the normal pH indicates that one system has been able to compensate for the other. Okay, so now let's go with the assess steps for evaluating the compensation. So first is to assess the pH. Determine if it is acidosis or alkalosis. Remember, di ba? Even if the pH is normal, determine whether saan pa rin siya nagfo-fall na ang ating gitna is 7.40. Kung below 7.40, still acidosis pa rin siya at pataas ng 7.40, still alkalosis pa rin siya. Kahit pasok siya sa range ng 7.35 to 7.45 na normal range ng pH. So, place the corresponding arrow next to the pH. And then, assess natin ang PaCO2 and HCO3. So, place the corresponding arrows and then continue to match the game. Which value matches with the pH? Again, pag respiratory, opposite, metabolic, equal. So, the other component should be moving in the opposite direction which indicates compensation. So, example lang natin. Which values, saan daw po dito ang nagmamatch daw po with the pH? Okay. So, ito ay mababa, lahat sila mataas. However, pero may significant kasi ito ay PaCO2, mataas siya meaning acidosis. Ito ay alkalosis. So, opposite sila. So, meaning, ang nagmatch is si PaCO2. Okay, so this is a respiratory acidosis. Okay, so ito po ay problem ng respiratory acidosis. So, paano natin i-identify kung compensated, uncompensated, fully compensated, partially compensated? Ito po ay masasabi nating partially compensated kasi lahat po sila ay abnormal. Okay? Kasi ito po ay this is within normal limits, okay? Kasi 7 below. Sorry. Correct. Mali. Okay, so this is abnormal kasi 7.35 to 7.45. Okay, so lahat po yan siya is abnormal. So this is partially compensated respiratory acidosis. So, yan. Okay. So, magbigay pa ako ng another example para mas ma-appreciate natin. Example lang. Another example. 7.31. That is acidosis. Okay. Ito po, 55. That is mataas PaCO2 acidosis. 28 bicarbonate. That is mataas alkalosis. So, ang problem dito kasi 'di ba they are opposite meaning respiratory acidosis. However, compensated ba? Ano yung kanyang evaluation for compensated? Lahat po or compensation, lahat po sila ay abnormal. Okay? 'Di ba? Walang within normal limits. So, this is partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Okay. Next. Ito po. Okay. Mababa. ito ay acidosis. Ito po ay PaCO2, mababa alkalosis. Okay. HCO3, mababa siya. This is acidosis. So, magkapareho, di ba? Remember the Rome, respiratory opposite. Hindi naman sila opposite. That's why hindi siya respiratory in origin. Pero metabolic equal. So, metabolic equal siya. So, this is metabolic acidosis. Now, if we take a look for the compensation, 7.31, nag-compensate. Hindi. So, okay, lahat sila within abnormal kasi walang normal na in limit, normal range sa kanila. So, this is partially compensated metabolic acidosis. Okay, another. Ayan siya. 7.48, mataas. That is alkalosis. PaCO2, mababa. That is alkalosis. HCO3, 21, mababa siya. That is acidosis. So, remember, okay, this is respiratory in nature. Now, dahil hanapin naman natin yung compensation, lahat sila ay abnormal. So, this is a partially compensated respiratory alkalosis. Okay. So, example lang natin. 7.23, that is very low. That is acidosis. PaCO2 niya 71, very high, acidosis. Ang kanyang PaO2 is 64. Okay lang yan siya. So, don't mind lang yung PaO2. It's because sa ating acid-base balance or ABG, the three parameters lang. Again, the pH, the PaCO2, and your HCO3. So, 26, normal. Okay. Normal po. So, meaning, dito po is, low kasi to siya. So, this is acidosis, respiratory acidosis. Diba sabi sa atin is pag uncompensated, yung isa, yung pH is abnormal and either of the two is abnormal, tapos yung isa normal. So, this is uncompensated respiratory acidosis. Kasi nga, normal yung isa sa kanila. Again po, pag uncompensated, either of the two is abnormal at yung isa normal. Okay? Pero ang pH is abnormal. Masasabi natin itong fully compensated if normal yung pH at either of the two is normal nga. So, masasabi natin this is fully compensated kasi nag-compensate ang ating blood pH. Okay? So, next interpretation. Okay. 7.52, that is mataas, alkalosis. PaCO2, 28 within normal. HCO3, 22. Okay, that is within normal. So, ano yung interpretation dito? Okay? So, high siya. This is respiratory alkalosis, high, uncompensated. Kasi normal sila. Okay? Bakit respiratory alkalosis? Kasi, hindi po to normal. This is 28 below, 28 to 45. This is below. This is alkalosis. So, mababa siya. This is alkalosis. So, mataas respiratory alkalosis dahil ito ay normal. This is uncompensated respiratory alkalosis. Okay, next. Ito naman, mataas siya, no? 7.50, higher as alkalosis. 45 within normal limits. HCO3, this is high. Kasi 30. Ang normal is 22 to 26. So the problem is metabolic alkalosis. Dahil merong PaCO2 na normal pero hindi pa rin normal ang pH, this is still uncompensated. Okay, so remember nyo lang po ha, take note again for evaluation of compensation. Uncompensated if the pH is abnormal and either of the two, PaCO2 and HCO3, is abnormal. Partially compensated if all of pH, HCO3, and PaCO2 are within abnormal, at pag fully compensated if the pH is normal and the HCO3 and PaCO3 is abnormal or may isa sa kanila ang normal. Basta normal din ang ating blood pH, meaning yan po ay fully compensated. Okay? So I think ito na po yung last part ng ating discussion for the prelim coverage na exam. So, please do review all the topics that I have discussed. Okay, especially ito din kasi malaki tong part ng ating exam, inshallah, no? So, thank you for watching this video and have a nice day.